Charlotte, thanks for being here today. Really appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak at South by. So, what unique leadership challenges come with marketing within the luxury auto category, specifically for a Jaguar Land Rover?
I think a lot of us luxury automotive manufacturers have to deal with a sense of dichotomy of there's luxury requires a sense of scarcity that you're lucky to be a part of this. Only a select few get to experience this brand. But we also have commercial realities and cars to sell and some of the classic challenges and competitive pressures that come with the grind of the automotive business. And we have to find a way to balance that elevated brand building experience and the sort of long-term discipline that requires with meeting those short-term commercial challenges.
And then this kind of builds on that a little bit. Like, what do you think is essential, or something that you've learned in your role as a CMO in the luxury automotive category that you really do think is really essential to kind of break through the competition?
Experiential marketing has been really big for us. We know that for luxury brands in particular, people aren't making the choice to buy, for example, a Range Rover for purely rational or utilitarian reasons. It's not a get from A to B kind of purchase. Yeah. When you purchase a Range Rover, you are joining an elite tribe or a community, and you're choosing to say something about your identity and who you are and what you believe in and what sort of other brands you enjoy. There's all kinds of implications that people might assume about you when you choose a particular luxury brand like Range Rover. So we've recognized that and tried to elevate that through experiential plays. Best example is Range Rover House, which is currently live in Park City, something we try to do every year in Park City and in Pebble Beach, and globally around the world. And it's an opportunity that's fun for us as marketers to challenge ourselves creatively to think, if Range Rover, the brand, were literally a house, what would it look like? What would it smell like? What would you eat there? Who would be invited? What would they wear? And we get to think that through, and it really opens up a creative process for partnership and how we curate the experience, and other luxury brands we invite to be a part of it. So that's been a really nice exercise for us in getting to know our own brands, frankly, as we build them into our house of brand strategy.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's really, I think with automobiles, like, that's the best way to kind of connect, and it's all about the experience. And I think even in the luxury category, it's like a level above.
Yes.
So when you feel special, that resonates. So that makes a lot of sense. So Jaguar and Land Rover, clearly have a big legacy. So there's a tradition there. So how do you, in kind of today's landscape, like how do you kind of maintain that foundation, but also kind of adapt to this evolving landscape that we're in to kind of break through with these modern audiences?
It's such a topical question, as we've been really evolving our brands, especially recently, and we're constantly reminded when we do tap into the heritage and the classic space, people do love it. Like, there really is a sense of authenticity and the reminder of the heritage of the brand. Range Rover is turning 55 this year. It's the original luxury SUV. While I don't think that explicitly is much of a message of its own, it's implied, I think, and it reminds people that this is true to the core of the brand. It's who we always have been. It's important, especially in luxury brands. And we've seen just literally, like, over the last year, we had an opportunity to bring forward a curated collection of the Queen's cars, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Famously, the royal family has a long-standing history with the legacy Land Rover brand across the portfolio. And we had this beautifully curated and restored collection of about 10 of her vehicles that she drove. She worked on herself. I learned that she's actually a trained auto mechanic.
Wow.
Or that she rode in. And so we had this beautiful display. We got to take it to a couple of activations, to a retailer meeting, and really big display at Rockefeller Center, and a whole celebration of British culture in New York City that was so well received. And we all kind of reflected on that and said, not only did that hit our metrics, generate a lot of press, blah, blah, blah. But it was like the human connections that were made there when people came up and said, wait, the queen herself was in this?
Yeah.
This isn't, I thought this was like a replication. No, this was hers. You can see the special little hook for her purse, or the little seat for her corgis.
Yeah.
People love that, and so that was, we can't be too precious about, creating a new brand. We have to really pay attention to those things that people love about where we've been.
Yeah, I love
so
that.
I think you'll see more of that in the future.
I love that. So this kind of speaks more to like how you kind of operate within your own marketing organization and how you enable your team. So like it's and this is a challenge for a lot of leaders, but how do you foster creativity, agility, and also, of course, just a high-performing team within the organization, the marketing organization specifically?
I'm lucky in that I walked into a very data-driven analytical team and culture. Okay. That's where we started. So I think those in some ways are the harder skills to build. I don't know, I guess it's arguable either way, but our processes for performance marketing were very rigorous. A/B testing, incrementality testing, we've continued to improve those, but I think that was already a strength of the team. Where I've tried to kind of bring in some special sauce is just my personal passion, which is consumer psychology.
Okay.
And the theory and the human differentiators in sort of personality and social psychology that, especially now with our House of Brand strategy, really differentiate a Defender client from a Range Rover client. And what are those differences beneath the surface? Because if we just look at what we can measure in media or in demographic studies, there are some differences, but not tremendous ones in terms of household income or education level, et cetera, et cetera. But when we really do like lean into the personality research and see these insights like Range Rover owners indexing as entrepreneurs or Defender owners being really into optimization and improvement and the sort of biohacking space and hardcore fitness, we start to get these what we call nuggets of insights, and it's evolved into a joke that we're hungry for nuggets. That's become fun, and it's kind of addicting. And now we, whenever we have a partner who has a new research study, I'm like, come in, let's have a lunch and learn. We want to just be thinking bigger picture, and that's where the creative ideas get unlocked.
Smart. I like that. Now, on the consumer side, there is, I think expectations have kind of changed or have kind of evolved with, all these macro elements kind of coming about, and I'm sure there's nuance to the luxury market too. So how do you navigate that? How do you align the marketing strategies with that expectation setting?
Expectation is the right word. I think like there's been such a disconnect in the automotive shopping experience and between like how it is and what customers expect of, just to be able to purchase a product, especially a luxury product. There are certain just baseline principles that people are reasonable to expect: a sense of transparency, not needing to haggle or negotiate, being able to start, stop, or finish their journey online if they choose. We know that automotive people do very much still want to go to the dealership to test drive the car, to touch and feel. That's such a physical product. But they want to do a lot of their shopping online too and pick it up and start it and save it from their phone. So we want to make that experience more seamless, for example. And so that's been a big journey of transformation for us over the past couple of years. And one that I always emphasize is just as much about the buy-in as it is the build, because as technically complicated as it can be to create a MarTech stack that's, consistent across our retail network, it's just as much about sort of the psychology and politics of bringing all of our retailers with us, because we know that they're a huge asset in the experience and they provide the hands-on touch opportunity with clients, and especially the servicing opportunity after sales. We want to have that, hospitality-like experience and really lean into our dealer network to provide that. But we also kind of want to tighten up and make more consistent the shopping. So that requires a lot of partnership.
Got it. Okay. And that was great because you answered the next question, which was as well, because it really was kind of with all these shifts that are happening in the industry, whether it be, EVs or digital retail, like you were discussing, different ownership models, people don't want to haggle anymore. Like you just kind of addressed it all. So, the bonus points for
Well, I do. I mean, I could say one more thing about the no haggle. We did, actually, before I officially joined JLR, I did just a partnership with them in my previous role as a behavioral scientist to test out ways to bring to market this one price, no haggle model. Could you do that from a manufacturer standpoint? And it's so complicated because it really, again, requires the buy-in of the whole network. Otherwise, it's sort of a house of cards, if not everyone participates. But what was really interesting from the research we did was more from the consumer side. It was that the takeaway was consumers want a futures process that's more transparent and no haggle. But you can't just flip a switch overnight and say, trust us, this is the best price and this is how it is, because it's so ingrained in our culture. And over 100 years, we've trained them as an industry to expect that they need to haggle. So there's a sense of trust that needs to be built over time, and commitment and discipline and consistency to build the consumer trust that this is actually how we do business, and you can believe that you're not going to find a different price if you go to another dealership. So it can't be a campaign mentality. It has to be a complete brand transformation.
Got it. So clearly you guys been thinking about this and digging into it.
Aren't we all?
Great. I really love the fact that you're kind of leaning into the psychology element, the behavioral element. And maybe this is a good way to kind of wrap it up, and maybe that's like your superpower or or that like unique thing that you're bringing into your role. But I guess just broadly within the auto category, what do you think is the most like important kind of leadership skills that you can kind of apply?
Important leadership skills. I mean, really in any category, one thing I've been thinking about a lot is building and fostering a sense of empowerment and mastery and expertise. I've studied this in my previous world in psychology, just what builds a sense of intrinsic motivation, the stuff that really lasts, outside of just table stakes. Am I being paid well? Do I have benefits? Blah, blah, blah. But the intrinsic motivation is what makes people feel committed to and stick around and really give their all to their job. And we know from the literature that that's about creating a sense of belonging and a really like happy, fun place to work where people feel like they're friends. That doesn't mean just like providing an ice cream truck once in a while, but actually committing to treating people like human beings. But I think the harder piece is autonomy and mastery and purpose. And that's something that, a lot of people who find their way in leadership have done so because they're like a really strong individual contributor and they're experts and they're really smart and they're good at pushing stuff through. But when you're at the leadership level, you have to think about harnessing the talent of the whole team. So are you giving people a sense of ownership and empowerment where you say, here's what we're trying to get to, but I trust you to bring your expertise to the table and get there. And so they feel like they really own it and you're there to just kind of clear blockers, but not tell them what to do. I think that I've been thinking about that a lot as a leader and improving there and really making that the focus.
What makes them feel necessary, but what's going to motivate them personally, and just it's kind of bi-directional, and it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of scenario. So again, I think that's where the psychology kind of comes in again, and it's clearly been a big value to how you've grown as a leader. So
thanks.
Thank you. This was an amazing conversation.
Yeah, this was
again, enjoy the rest of your South by, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak today.
Likewise. Thank you.
Okay.